Well, good morning. We're continuing our message series, going over 30 of the most famous scriptures that are quoted and known by most people in the Bible. Today we're in the book of Proverbs, which was written by King Solomon, predominantly attributed to most of the writings in Proverbs. He, of course, was the son of King David. And Solomon was interested because, he's a man known for his wealth and prosperity and building the temple. But it was interesting because before he became king, he prayed to God to ask for one thing. And the only thing he asked for was wisdom. And therefore, God gave him and blessed him with wisdom. And from that, wisdom and the knowledge of God spread out into everything he did. And Proverbs is just that. It's a book full of wisdom and teachings that applies even today. Today, the verse of the week is Proverbs chapter 3, verse 5. It says, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding." And verse 6 goes on to say, "In all your ways submit to him, and he will make your path straight." So there's two verses. So it's bonus day, right? Must be your lucky day. You don't even get charged for that extra verse. But a lot of these verses we're going through are actually passages, and sometimes you have to kind of connect the verses together. So think of it as your lucky day. Kind of like when you go through the drive-thru and you reach in the sack to get your order of fries, and lo and behold, there's that bonus onion ring or tater tot sitting in your fries. And you're like, yes, this is my day. Everything's going my way. This verse is also known because it's printed on the bottom of the milkshakes from In-N-Out Burger. In-N-Out Burgers, prints Bible verses on the bottom of their little fry baskets and things like that. And on their milkshakes, they print, and it just says Proverbs 3:5. "Trust in the Lord with all your heart, lean not on your own understanding." If you take the word trust and biblically go back through the Hebrew language, it translates into securely and confidence. So you can securely be confident that when you trust in the Lord with all your heart, submit to him, he'll make your path straight. Now, why is this verse famous? See, these two verses are some of the most quoted in the Bible because they speak to anyone who might be facing uncertainty in your life today. And they offer clear direction how to live with faith, especially when life feels confusing. Now, maybe someone out there is going through an uncertain time of their life where life just seems a little confusing right now. Maybe your job or your business is just not going well, and just starting the new year, you're kind of just slugging along, trying to get going. We know even here in the state of Oklahoma this past week, we've heard announcements of Devon Energy and Expand, formerly Chesapeake, two of the largest, most well-known corporate businesses in the state, are moving to Houston. And for that city and for that tower and that office space, those are families and those are people whose lives are vested and rooted there. And now their jobs are a little uncertain. Maybe you're going through a health issue. Maybe it's a mental health issue. Maybe you've got a lot of anxiety and a lot of stress, and you're just worried about things, even if you know everything's okay. Just mentally, your mental health is just kind of on edge. You're just feeling a little nervous and shaky. Or your physical health, you've had some blood work or medical tests, and maybe it pointed to something was off a little, and you're going through further testing, and you're going down this path, and life's just a little uncertain. Maybe it's in your child. Your child's having some behavioral issues, or you've got an older child that's struggling with some form of addiction or just off the path right now. And as a parent, you just want to really lean into this verse, to really trust in the Lord with all your heart. Don't lean on your own understanding. Submit to him, and he will make your path straight. If you look at the book of Proverbs, It's a collection of wisdom sayings meant to guide people towards a life that honors God. And this passage teaches that trust isn't partial or occasional. It's a full-time commitment. It's not something you do on occasion. Let's be honest. We all at times, when life's going well, we just kind of bump along and everything's going good. And we kind of find ourselves not as fully connected. But when life hits you in the face and all of a sudden you've got turmoil or a storm or chaos, where do we go to? We run right back to God. We really lean into Him. And trusting God with all your heart means relying on Him completely. The heart, as references the Bible, is it's not just an organ, but it's your inner soul, it's your well-being, it's who you are as a person. And so when you trust God with all your heart, you're giving up everything in your life, even when the circumstances don't make sense, even when the storm rages, even when the world's in total chaos. Your trust is rooted in His Word. And there's a warning in this passage. The warning says, lean not on your own understanding. And that reminds us that our perspective is limited. Because whenever we go to God, we've usually got a wish list. Bless this person, work this situation out. And in our minds, we have the outcome as we see and want and wish and pray that God would meet. And not only is it an outcome that's in our favor, it's also timing. And those things are fine and good. We should go to God, take everything that's on our hearts. He says with thanks and take petition and prayer, take all your requests to Him. But we're warned not to lean on our understanding. We have to be reminded He is still God. He is in control, and His timing is not our timing. We work in the confines of time. God exists outside of time. He's constantly lining up every situation in your life, every person, every opportunity, every trial is even lined up to ultimately glorify His kingdom and do what's best in your life. So what seems wise to us at a particular moment might not lead to the best outcome. It might not lead to the plan that God has for us. Submitting to God in all your ways is about inviting His guidance into every part of your life, not just the big decisions. Anytime we're facing a critical, big decision in life, we're always like, God, am I doing the right thing? I've got to make this big decision. Am I going to marry this person? Am I going to take this job? I've got to make a decision about this person in my life, or I'm dealing with an opportunity. Do I go for it or not? And we want to take those decisions to Him and pray for His guidance and alignment. But in everything we do, all of our ways, we're covering all of our bases. The Bible says whatever we eat or drink, whatever you do it for the glory of God. Because when we do this, the promise is that God will make your path straight. Now, what does that mean, make your path straight? We envision this nice, easy, well-lit path, smooth road where we can walk right to the finish line and hit our goal. But this doesn't mean the path will be easy. But it does show us He'll lead us in the right direction. And He will help remove us and give us the strength to overcome whatever obstacle may be in our way. Because sometimes we pray for obstacles to be removed when we ought to be praying for strength to overcome the obstacle. And God will always be with us, whether He's walking you through the fire, walking you around it, and in some situations, He will remove the obstacle. But more often than not, He's going to strengthen us and to help us through it. And our peace and understanding can always come from whatever we're facing. He's holding our hands. Now, right now, the Winter Olympics are going on, right? We all rally around the U.S. flag, and here's these Winter Olympics, and We don't know the first thing about skiing or figure skating or bobsledding, but by golly, we're cheering on the USA, right? We can unite. In this verse, Proverbs 3:5, let's share a Winter Olympic story. It's very relative to a young lady named Vanetta Flowers. Now, in 2000, you say, well, who's Vanetta Flowers? Well, in 2002 Winter Olympics in Salt Lake City, Utah, Vanetta Flowers became the first African American to ever win a gold medal at a Winter Olympics. First athlete, male or female, she wins the Olympic gold medal in bobsledding. And after she won the gold, she ended up being named on People magazine's 50 Most Beautiful People of the Year. She appeared on the Today Show. She had whirlwind press conferences. Olympic gold had thrust her into the limelight. And every step of the way, she attributed and gave glory to God, and she would remind people of Proverbs 3:5-6, because it was so relevant to her. You see, you think, wow, she won Olympic gold. What an amazing achievement. And she trusted in God with all her heart. And she said even when times she didn't understand what was going on, she tried to just lean into Him and commit everything she did to Him. And she believed that He led her and made that path straight. But that path was not easy. It was a bumpy journey. You see, she grew up in Alabama. So she didn't see a lot of snow, and bobsledding probably wasn't high on the list, but she was an outstanding track athlete. So good, her high school coach told her, you might be the next Jackie Joyner-Kersee, who's one of the greatest female track athletes of all time. She goes to the University of Alabama, Birmingham, becomes one of the most decorated female collegiate track athletes of all time. In her senior year, she goes to the Olympic trials to run in the 1996 Summer Olympics. And as she was running and training, she suffers an ankle injury. And the injury was so bad, she ended up coming in a very disappointing 13th place. And it devastated her. And she went back home and she rehabbed and started going to church with a friend, and she gave her life to Christ. And at her newfound church, she met the man that would become her husband. And lo and behold, he was also a track athlete and an Olympic trainer and happened to be the son of the preacher. So she thought she's hit the jackpot, and she probably did. Well, she starts training again for the 2000 Summer Olympics. And in that training process, she re-injures her ankle and can't go to trials. And she's devastated. And she's sitting around home, and her husband says, hey, I'm in the training world of the Olympics now. They're wanting and needing a brake person for the bobsled team for the 2002 Olympics. She doesn't know what bobsledding is. And these two-man bobsled teams, they have a driver. It's kind of the captain. You'll see them rock their bobsled, and they take off running, and the driver jumps in, and the brake person has got this handle. They're pushing and running, building up as much momentum, and right before they hit the start line, they jump in, they hunker down, they go along for the ride, and then they apply the brake at the end to help slow this thing down. So she looks into it and starts training for it and picks it up very quickly. And she gets put on the team, and they become the third-ranked seed for the Olympics. So the top 3 teams in trials, top 3 qualifiers go. So here she is. She's now on the number 3 bobsled team. She's going to the Winter Olympics. And right before they leave, the captain, the driver, calls her and says, you're out. I've got another person I want to run with me. And she's devastated again. Her Olympic dreams are dashed. And she goes home and sits on the couch for a week, and her husband says, nope, got to keep training. You can't sit around. God's got a plan for you. He didn't bring you this far to have you get dumped at the last moment. And the phone rang, And the number 2 bobsled driver calls and says, my brakeman's out. Would you like to join my team? And she says, yes. So she ends up at the Olympics, and now she's on the number 2 team. And they're training, and she's getting excited. And the night before the competition begins, her phone rings. And it's the number 1 driver. Hey, my brake person's not feeling well. Are you interested in running on the number 1 team? And she says no, because she remembered what it felt like to be dumped. And she felt like God has brought me through so much to get me here. And this is my final test. Am I willing to bail on the teammate that brought me here and trust and believed in me? Am I going to bail at the last minute to go for what is perceived as a better opportunity? And she respectfully declined. And her newfound teammate went out and pulled the upset and won the gold medal in Salt Lake City in 2002. And through that whole process and all the interviews, she would quote Proverbs 3:5-6. I had to trust in the Lord with all my heart and lean not on my understanding. In all my ways I had to submit to him, and he'll make your path straight. She knew if she kept trusting in God, he had a plan for her. She knew if she'd quit trying to figure it out on her own, as much as she knew she had talent and ability, and she trained hard, and she ate well, and she stayed healthy, she had a good coach and trainers, she knew it wasn't enough. She needed God to take her. So in everything she did, she stayed in constant prayer and sought wisdom. And as tough as the challenges were, the injuries and the setbacks, and even the temptation at the very end to make one final jump, she stayed the course. And God made her path straight. And through her Olympic gold medal, she was able to go on and share the gospel throughout that entire Winter Olympics and on her victory tour and press coverages all the way back home. So what could that verse mean for you personally? So we wrap up here today. Remember, you don't have to figure out everything on your own. When you give God your full trust and follow his lead, he will guide you toward what is best for you. So trust in the Lord with all your heart. And to do that requires faith. And faith has been called the celebration of victory, regardless of your current circumstances. You see, faith allows God to straighten your path. And we know the Bible tells us without faith, it is impossible to please God. So let your faith fuel that trust in him today. And let it shine through you as you proclaim Proverbs 3:5-6 over your life today. Trust in the Lord with all your heart. Lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways submit to him, and he will make your path straight. Have a blessed week, and we hope you join us again next Wednesday.